Live and popping. It is on, y'all. This is Coaching by Al with your host, me, Al Wilson Jr. I am so happy to be here with you, man. This is exciting. We are here. We're doing it. You see the whole, we've got the whole background and everything. It's going to be crazy, right? I have to give some absolute shout outs first. Okay, I got to shout out, say thank you to all of you who are watching, all of you who are going to be watching. It's going to be wonderful. And then secondly, I have to say thank you to Prophet Blaine Irving. Can we give him a hand? Woo! Prophet Blaine Irving, the man with the plan who put all of this together. He is the founder, co-founder with his wonderful wife, the apostle, Iday Irving. I hope I said it right. I hope I did, sister. I love you so much. But they put this together, and we are just having a ball. Worship Radio International. And this is our first airing, so we got to thank God for them. And then, of course, I have to thank God for a whole list of people. So you have to give me a few minutes to get all of the acknowledgments out of the way because this is just so great. So I also have to thank the lady that introduced me to Prophet Blaine Irving, who handles the Worship Radio International. He also handles publishing, book publishing. He handles websites. He handles printing. I mean, he handles a host of things. But the lady that introduced me to him, my dear sister in the Lord, she's a minister, she's an elder, she's a woman of God, she's a prophet, she moves in the spirit. Sister Linda Hunt, you may have just seen her program. She came on right before me, but we thank God for you, Sister Linda Hunt. Love you. And then also, I have to thank God for the lady that introduced me to her, my dear sister Ronnie Martin. If I hadn't met her, then none of this would have happened. So I got to thank God for you. I want to thank God for my father, who's also here today. He's in the studio with me, Alfred C. Wilson Sr., my pastor, the man that taught me everything I knew, the man I wanted to be like when I grew up. And if I have an opportunity to be a fourth of the man that he is, then I feel like I will have been successful in my life. He's just a wonderful man, inside and out, has always been the same across the board. Love you, Dad. You're the man. And then I got to say I love you too, my heart, the one that makes me actually look like I know what I'm talking about, the one that makes me look smart. My wife, my honey bunch, my sugar, my love, my baby mama. Technically, she is. And she's my best friend, and she's done so much behind the scenes to help this day come about. My wife, Tarsha Michelle Wilson. I love you, baby. Thank you so much. And to the God's Holy Temple Church family, all of you, I love y'all. You know that. And we are going to have a ball. So now that I have most of the preliminary thank yous and acknowledgments out of the way, who am I? Who is Al? Who is this Coaching by Al person? You're probably wondering that if you don't know me already. But one thing that I can definitely say about myself is that I'm weird. So if you don't like weird, you're going to love me. I don't care who else you didn't like. You're going to love me. But just a little background on me. Grew up in Detroit, Michigan. And pretty much been here most of my life. Spent a little bit of time away when I was in school in Florida. Had far too much fun. So I came back and went to school at Oakland Community College and studied business administration. And then from there, I knew already that my calling was going to be in ministry. So I figured I would try to avoid costing my parents any more money than my first year, and that was quite expensive, I'm sure. I love you, Dad. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me and not kicking me out the house. But but I eventually went into ministry and served in ministry for many years. I've been a part of the ministry my whole life because my father, as I said, is the pastor, the senior pastor or the founding pastor of the church that I belong to, God's Holy Temple Church. And then just a few years ago, when he decided to relax and retire, he made me the senior pastor of God's Holy Temple Church. And so that is what I fulfill now. And that's the experience that I call on. So I literally have over 30 years of experience in ministry. However, in specific operational ministry, over the last 19 years. So it's been a wonderful ride, and so that's what I do. That's who I am. And then also, as a professional speaker and a life coach, I took upon the assignment of finding out about being a life coach so that I could really help with the membership, brothers and sisters that would come to me and want to find out how they could move forward in life, what they could do. And so that's what I did. I said, hey, let me see what I can do to enhance myself as a pastor so that I can be more effective in ministry. And the thing is, the reason why I say that is because whereas ministry has its place, and there's so much wisdom that comes from the Word of God, many times it's not a big deal of what we need to know. Many times the issue is we already know what we should be doing, and we just don't do it. Come on, let's just be real with it. Many times we know what to do. You know the answer to a lot of the questions you have, but you just don't do it. So that's what we're going to talk about in this show. We're going to talk about ways to get you to already operate based on what you got in your head, to bring it to the surface, and then put a plan into action to make it come about. You've seen trainers that work with athletes. Athletes have incredible skill. Athletes have God-given skill, God-given talent. But there's a quote that says, more men are ennobled by study than by nature. Okay? More men are ennobled by study than by nature. What is that saying? Just because you have the talent, if you don't take time to hone it, if you don't take the time to develop it, someone else who may be a little less talented but works harder at it will get further than you will. You may get to the top eventually, but it won't sustain you, or you won't be able to stay there because someone else is working at being the best, whereas you are relying on your talent to keep you somewhere. So you always have to develop yourself. You always have to better your best. You always have to be able to do more than required. You are in competition against who? Yourself. That's your only competition, which means you got to stay focused on the lane that you're in and go for it. Come on now. So I hope you all are watching. And if you're looking on, then go ahead and put a comment in the comment section just to let us know. Put a thumbs up, or hey, how you doing, or I can't stand what you look like, and all of that. But in just a few minutes, I'm going to get into what we are here for today. And this first opportunity that I have to come before you, I figured it would be a wonderful start to go ahead and get a mindset training happening. Okay, a mindset training. So for just a little while, maybe 45 minutes to an hour, somewhere around there, I am going to be a life coach for you, if that's okay. Yeah, it's okay. You good with that? All right. So this, you see my shirt here? My wife made this shirt. I came up with the saying, but she made it for me. And it says, how about a brainwash? Now, anytime we heard that word in the past, immediately we went into a negative connotation in our mind, right? You have this idea of somebody who's going to give you some Kool-Aid and a whole lot of people are going to be wiped out. No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is having an opportunity to clear away some of the cobwebs, some of the dust, some of the ideas that have caused you to think the way you think, or have caused you to act the way you act, even more so, and how we can get that harnessed to get some positive feedback from it instead. Okay, so let's kind of jump into this. When it comes to mindset training, and for those of you who are faith-based and love the Lord like I do, think about it. When Jesus came to the world and he ministered for those 3 years, when he served, when he loved, when he spoke to people, what was it that he was really trying to change in people? If you think about it, he was not trying to change their situation regarding their existential circumstances. He was not trying to change what the Roman army was doing. He was not trying to change their living conditions. What did he actually work on changing? He started working on their mindset. He wanted to change their perspective, because once your perspective changes, anything around you can become a better place. That sounds a little superficial, but let me explain what I'm talking about. No matter where you grow up, no matter what your background is, no matter what your income level is, no matter what your gender is, no matter what any of these types of stereotypes that you may place upon yourself or have allowed other people to place on you, it doesn't matter if you change your mind about it. If you accept it and it becomes your reality, then, well, that's you. And many times that's what's happened. So that's why I'm here, because I want to help us to realize and understand what the mindset should be. So I figured that'd be a great place to start. So let's talk about it. Well, what is this big thing we have called the mind? The mind is a huge database of information. It's one of the best computers, not one of the best, it is the best computer the world has ever seen. Computers still cannot match what the mind can do. Your mind, that's right. You've heard that saying, it's a terrible thing to waste. Well, it's an incredible thing to get started. And that's what we want to talk about. Now, you have three parts to the mind. I hope you're taking notes. Take some notes if you can. Let me say this first before I go any further. A lot of what I'm going to say to you is not anything that you haven't heard before. What I am going to say to you is information that may have just been kind of stuffed somewhere back in your mind that needs to be brought back to the surface. Sometimes it's just a matter of remembering. Sometimes we get off track. We get covered up with daily grind information. We have layers of life that just get piled on top of us, and we kind of get smothered. So I'm just here to try to help remove some of those layers to get you back going. So we have the mind. We have the subconscious mind. We have the conscious mind, and we have the preconscious mind. Okay, first I'm going to talk about the conscious mind. What is the conscious mind? The conscious mind is everything that you're thinking about on a daily basis. You're thinking about what's going on around you. You're thinking about the sounds that you hear. You're thinking about the things that your eyes are showing you. You're thinking about the environment. You're thinking about, is it too hot? Is it too cold? Is it going to rain today? Everything that's happening around you is what's going on in your conscious mind. I'm conscious of the fact that I'm wearing a watch. I'm conscious of the fact that I'm sitting here in a chair. I'm conscious of the fact that I'm in front of a microphone and a camera. So I'm conscious of that. That's what's happening right now in my reality. That's one part of it. Then the second part of it is the preconscious mind. Now, the preconscious is quite exciting, because if for any of you who use computers or even your smart devices these days, you have something at the bottom of the screen normally, or at the top of the screen, depending on what device you're using, called a sys tray or a system tray. Now, I might be dating myself with some of these words that I'm using, but, hey, forgive me. The subconscious, or the preconscious rather, is the sys tray of your mental computer. It's this tiny little area where windows are minimized or icons are setting, and it's the information that you're not using currently, but you can pull forward anytime you want to. So it's different from the conscious mind. The conscious mind, I'm always conscious of what's happening. I'm conscious that I have two people in here in the room with me. I'm conscious that I hear sounds going on outside. The preconscious mind is like this. Let me give you an example of it. If you remember, on your computer, you may have a window open. Right now, I'm looking at that window, but then if I want to minimize that window and tuck it away, I'm not closing the program. I'm just minimizing it or setting it aside so that when I'm ready to use it again, all I have to do is just tap a button and retrieve it, and it comes right back to me. That's how the preconscious mind works. So here's another example for you. My name is Al. Now, I don't walk around all day saying to myself, my name is Al, my name is Al, my name is Al, my name is Al, my name is Al. Al is my name. My name is Al. I don't do that. Why? Because it's in my preconscious. Whenever I get ready to pull it forward, it's there. But I'm not thinking about it all day long. You see what I'm saying? So that's what the preconscious does. And then there is the subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind is the largest part of the mind. If you think about an iceberg, if you've ever seen a picture of an iceberg, the way it sits above the water and the way it sits beneath the water, the smallest part of the iceberg that you see is the part that sits above the water. It's the part that has the beautiful ice glistening off of it and the snow cap and all of that. But then when you get below the surface of the water, you will find that that thing is like the size of a mountain, actually. And it's only a little piece at the top of what you see. So that's the same way our mind is. Your subconscious mind is vast, absolutely vast. Some believe that it can contain more than 3 or 4 or 5, maybe terabytes of information. And the way that it processes that information is more efficient and more functional than any computer ever created. Nobody's ever going to be able to get better than God. So we might as well go ahead and acknowledge that fact. Okay. Now, what is the issue that we want to discuss as it relates to the mindset? Now that we understand what we have, the conscious mind, the pre-conscious mind, and the subconscious mind. Information that you have been collecting over your entire life is doing something to you that you probably could not even imagine. Let me ask a question. Have you ever known what you wanted to do, but for some reason you chose to go a different way? Have you ever prejudged someone and you didn't know a thing about them? Have you ever prejudged going to a building or going into a house, or you picked up on something that immediately made you say, I don't want to have anything to do with that? Or vice versa, you just saw a little glimpse of something and you were absolutely excited about it. Have you ever had that happen? If that's happened to you, what was happening is your subconscious mind, along with your preconscious and your conscious, and another little part that we're about to discuss in just a few minutes, was actually making the decisions for you. I'm going to let that sink in for about 2 seconds. 1, 2. Okay, now, how does this happen? How does this actually happen? There is something called the RAS, the reticular activating system. I know it sounds like I'm doing a brain dump on you, but I want us to get this thing set before we move any further forward over the next weeks, because if we get our mind right, everything else is going to be right. Okay, at least if we find out what's wrong with it. Okay, now, the reticular activating system acts like a doorman at a nightclub. Okay, if you've ever gone to a nightclub, I'm not saying I have gone to a nightclub or anything like, okay, yeah, I've been to a nightclub. If you've ever been to a nightclub and you've seen how there's this big, huge bodyguard kind of guy at the door, and he's got a list, and on this list, he's got names on the list, or at least in his mind, he's helping out the owner of the club. The owner of the club has in their mind an idea of the kind of people that they want in their club. Okay, Pastor Al, why are you talking about nightclubs? Because it's an easy picture to paint. All right, so let me go. Now, if you've been to the nightclub and you were in line, you may walk up and the person may take a look at you, and they're studying you from head to toe. They're trying to see how you dress. They're trying to see if you got any swag. They're trying to see if you got any kind of kookiness to you. And based on what they determine to be positive or negative, based on what the owner of the club wants, determines whether you get in or not. Okay, so you might walk up and because you're wearing plaid and stripes, they'll say, nah, you can't get in here. You don't fit the description of what we're looking for. Okay, somebody else may walk in or walk up to the door and they have on a real nice suit of some kind. I don't know. I don't even know what they wear to clubs these days. I don't want to know. I don't need to know. But they may get in just fine because they fit the profile of what the owner of the club wants. Well, that's what the reticular activating system does for you. It works for you as your bodyguard or your bouncer. Okay. So what's happening? You have tons of information. And if you're just joining us, by the way, God bless you. Thank you so much for joining us. We're having fun. We're talking about the mind. If you're just joining us, what's happening is you have tons of information always trying to get inside your brain, inside your subconscious mind. Okay. Now, about 2,000 bits of data are trying to get in through your eyes, through your ears, through your smell, through your taste, and through your touch, the five senses. That's what connects us to this natural environment, right? All of that information is trying to get in. If you've ever been to a place like, I remember one time I was in New York, and if you've ever been on that main street in New York where all of those posters and signs and billboards and lights and all of that, it's always trying to bombard you. Even when you're driving down the freeway, there's billboards trying to capture your attention. You walk into a store, there's a magazine rack, there's advertisements. You're watching TV, there's advertisements, there's information trying to get into your mind. You walk through a grocery store and you see or you smell different smells. They're trying to, I swear, I could be wrong, but I believe there's somebody in the back of Kroger with a fan, and they are holding it up to a vent, and every time they cook fried chicken, somebody is holding the fan trying to push it out that vent to make me smell it in the parking lot. I'm just saying, is that just me? It's got to be somebody there. What are they trying to do? They're trying to lure me to that counter with the smell of that doggone chicken. It's happening. I promise you it's happening. But anyway, all of that information is trying to get into my mind at one time. The issue is that my mind can only process maybe about 40,000 bits of data of information per second, whereas 2 million bits of data per second are trying to get in. So then there has to be something in between my senses receiving information and my mind storing information to choose what's important and what's not important. This is absolutely vital. I pray, I hope that you are listening to this, because it's going to make a lot of sense to the reason why you've made some of the decisions that you've made in your life. Okay? So something has to happen. I need a filter. I got to have a filter some kind of way to decide what's important and what's not important. And that's what the reticular activating system does. It's going to help me to determine what's important to me and what's not important to me. Here's the thing. It's basing its information on what's important or not important based on things that have happened in my life, different filters that are already programmed in me. For example, the first one is, what's important to Al? How do I value myself? My personal image of me determines what information is important to me or what's not important to me. What's happened in my childhood, in my youth, the environment that I grew up in, experience that I've had, whether good or bad, that's going to be important. Hold on to that. Whether good or bad is going to determine how I receive or reject information. Those are just two of many that I could name. But if you kind of connect the dots, you'll start to see how that can be very, very critical to the decisions that you make. So let's take that information for just a moment and kind of funnel it down a little bit more so we can see how it actually helps or hurts. Let's say in your lifetime, in your childhood, say there was somebody who came over to your house, a friend of your parents or guardian, and for some reason, let's just say for some reason, whenever they came over, they had a really mean disposition. They were just always mean. And for some reason, they just always seem to rub you the wrong way. Every time you come around, they say something mean to you. And you grew up thinking about that. And maybe you tucked it away. Maybe you tucked it away in the back of your mind. It stored itself in your subconscious mind. Now, here you are, 25, 30 years old, and a person approaches you that looks like that person from your childhood. You've never met this person before. You don't know their name. You've never seen them from Adam's cat. And now, all of a sudden, without even knowing a thing about them, you immediately reject them. You don't want to have anything to do with them. You don't want to think about them. You don't want to talk to them. You don't want to get to know them. You've already made up in your mind that this is a mean person, somebody that I don't want to deal with. Why? Because the information that got sucked into your brain from when you were a child started to build your filters. And those filters now decide for you, the reticular activating system, it starts to decide for you if this person is somebody that you really want to talk to and get to know, or somebody that you don't want to talk to. That's how it works. Doesn't that explain a lot? Doesn't that explain a whole lot? If you start to just think about things that happened in your past, experiences that you've had, places you've gone, things that you've seen. Think about a person who, let's say, grew up near a lake. Their family went fishing all the time. Their friends fished all the time. And let's say you were 7 or 8 years old even. OK, and now your family moved away and now you're living in the big city and everything is a concrete jungle around you. There's no water anywhere. But for some reason, you walk into a department store and you always have a feeling like you just want to go over to the tackle aisle, you know, with fishing poles and nets. For some reason, you like the smell of the ocean. For some reason, you're watching television programs about the greatest cast and what was the name of that show where they were catching all the salmon and all the time and everything. I actually like that show myself. But the point is, you don't even really fully get why that appeals to you until you start to think back and realize that was a filter in your mind. This is the reason why we have an issue with each other as people. There's people who can walk into your life and without even knowing them, you don't even want to be bothered with them. You've already made a decision before they even get there. You've already made your decision. I don't like him. I don't like her. I don't like the way she dressed. I don't like them shoes she got on. And because of that, I know she probably, no. Your mind was making that decision for you. There's a line from a movie that I love. Okay, all my family gonna laugh at me, but yes, it's true. The Matrix. You all know The Matrix. I love that movie. There was a line, a monologue that happened between Neo and the Oracle. I believe this was in the third Matrix, and it may have been the second or the third Matrix, but he comes to her to try to get her to help him to make a decision as to what he needs to do. This is important. Listen to this. And so she tells Neo, you're not here for me to help you make a decision. You're here because you've already made a decision. And now you need help to find out why you made that decision. Whoa, that's kind of hot. What are you saying, Al? I'm saying that you are already making decisions without really understanding why. Let's move a little more forward with this. What happens in your mind, in your subconscious, is an amazing, powerful, yet dangerous, if not controlled, organism that's computing data at such a fast rate that it's mind-boggling. And here's the other part about it that's so important and dangerous if you don't catch it. Inside your mind, inside your subconscious, there is no past, present, or future. None. You get that? Time does not exist in your subconscious mind. Here's another thing. Right or wrong does not exist in your subconscious mind. Hey, believe me, your subconscious mind is just like a child. It will believe anything it's told. This is why it's so important that you be careful about what you allow in and what you feed it. Because if you continue to feed the wrong thing to your mind, it's going to believe it. It's going to believe that it's true. It's not going to question, argue, and explore. It's not going to do any of that. It's going to accept it as absolute truth. And when it does that, what happens is it starts to create filters. And those filters are what's going to determine your choices for years to come. All right. Now, let me talk about that part a little bit more. The real and the non-real, the no time aspect. Isn't it interesting how even in the scripture, in the Bible, the word tells us that God has stored eternity in our heart? Basically, what he's saying is timelessness is in the mind. It's in the mind. Okay, we know that this body eventually, this flesh that we have, that's going to go away. But you are an eternal being. Timeless. It's all in you. It's all in your mind. When it talks about the heart, it's talking about the mind. Okay. Now, the thing about that is that it does not differentiate, your subconscious mind does not differentiate between past, present, or future. So even if something happened in your past, as far as your subconscious mind is concerned, it happened just now. That's important. That's important. If you are thinking about something that could happen in the future, in your subconscious mind, it's happening right now. This is why we need to figure out how our mind works and work on it to get it to where we want it to be so that our future becomes what we're thinking about now. I know there's a scripture that people always talk about, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. What's that? Proverbs, I think 23:7 or something like that. Well, it's not actually what it said. It's not actually what it says. It says, as he thinketh, so is he. But I understand what it was coming from. There was a man named Allen who wrote a book back in the early 1900s. And the name of that book was As a Man Thinketh. And he pulled it from that scripture, and he was talking about it in a way to where we could kind of try to digest it in a positive mindset. But actually, the scripture itself is talking about someone who is kind of doing things in a devilish way. But we'll come back to that in just a moment. Now, the issue with it is whatever you're thinking about, whatever you rehearse in your mind over and over and over and over, those filters are being reinforced and reinforced and reinforced with more strength to filter out information faster and quicker. This is the reason why sometimes you can look at a person. Let's say let's take the pressure off you. Okay, let's take the pressure off you. Put it on somebody that you know, maybe a family member, maybe a friend, somebody who you've seen make some horrible decisions in life. Okay, and you ask yourself, why in the world would that person make that decision? Have you ever had a girl friend, a friend who is a girl? Let me say it that way, and you look at the track record of guys that she's dated, and it seems like every single one of those guys is the same guy with a different face. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever seen that? I know I have. Okay, and you keep wondering, how does this person fall into the same relationship and the same problem over and over and over and over again? She just got out of it. How is it that because her subconscious mind has been programmed with all of the experiences that she's had up until that point. And every time she feeds it more, it's strengthening the filters, and she finds that guy over and over again. This is why a person who just got out of a horrible relationship where they were mistreated, abused, misunderstood, can go into a room with 100 people, and let's say all of them look exactly the same. All of them are wearing the same outfit. All of them have their hair cut the same way. All of them have the same shoes. Everything about them is the same. And this lady will walk up and choose the one man who was just like the guy that she just got finished dating. How is that possible? Because your mind is making choices for you. And whereas you think you're making a different choice because maybe somebody looks different, inside, your mind knows exactly what you're looking for because it's been programmed to. That's what happens. Another issue with the reticular activating system that makes it so difficult and the choices that you make is, have you ever heard of an experience where a person had this weird kind of obsessed relationship with a celebrity, let's just say? Remember that movie with Whitney Houston? What was the name of it? The Bodyguard. The Bodyguard. Yeah. So she has this stalker who's been stalking her, and in his mind, because he's programmed it, they went to the house and he had pictures all over the wall, right? He's watched countless videos of her. He's listened to her music continually. He's obsessed with her. He's feeding his mind. He's feeding his subconscious with images, with information with sound. And in his mind, he gets to a point where he believes that they are just supposed to be together. Sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it? But it's happening. It's real in his mind. In his mind, they are together. In his mind, they are a couple. In his mind, they are just as happy as they can be. And what happens is, because of the power of the mind, oh my goodness, how much time do I have here? Do I have enough time to get through this? Because of the power of the mind, it will start to cause what you think about, what you desire, what you fill it with. It will cause it to start happening. That starts to get a little deep. Okay. Don't turn away. Don't turn away. Stay here. If you're just joining us, this is Al with Coaching by Al, and we're talking about a mindset that we got to get right. What happened in our mind? What's going on with it? What caused it to be the way it is? What causes us to think the way we think? That's the first thing we got to get right. Okay, so that's the reason why it's topic number 1. Okay, and then next week, we'll talk about some other ideas, but we have to get this mind issue first. So, all of the information that's being programmed and stored is strengthening our resolve. A person goes by a window, let's just say, walking down the street, window shopping, and you're immediately drawn to something out of the corner of your eye. Maybe it's your favorite color on a suit. Maybe it's a picture that you see. Maybe it's an accessory or something. Your mind is just immediately drawn to it. Why? Because your mind, your subconscious, your reticular activating system is doing the best job it can in helping you to retrieve more data that supports what's important to you. So, if money is important to you, guess what your brain is constantly going to be thinking about to try to get more information to support what you believe? Right? If cars are important to you, what do you pay attention to when you're inside or outside, whether you're online or offline? What is your mind gravitating you toward? You always find yourself around a nice car. You always are looking at it. You'll go by the dealership and you'll just, oh, wow, that's an amazing car. Or your mind is grabbing information. If you have a specific type of person that you're attracted to, your eyes could be closed and somebody will walk by that fits that description and your eyes will pop right open and you'll see that person and you'll be like, oh my goodness. Why? Because you have programmed it and it's doing its best to get you closer to where you want to be. See, your mind is working for you. This is important to understand. You are not a slave to your mind. Your mind is to be a slave to you. Your mind was given to you to help you function, to help you operate, to help you fulfill the assignment and the purpose for your life. Okay, so what that means then is if you are trying to get something accomplished, your mind is supposed to be there to help you to get that accomplished. Okay, so if it's going to, if somebody walks up to me and based on all of the filters in my past, all of my experiences, all of my care for myself, all of my self-interest, all of my safety clauses and all of that I have stuck in here, if this person walks up and they pass all of those little filter tests, then I receive them into my circle. And I greet them and I get to know them. And if they don't, I step off. Sometimes the reason why we step away from things that we know we should go toward is because our mind has been programmed with information that causes us to reject it. Maybe you want to move forward in a business idea, or maybe you want to go back to school, or maybe you've thought about sparking out and just doing something different in your life. Whatever it is, whatever your goal, whatever your dream is, whatever that is, maybe the reason why you haven't stepped forward to it yet is because of something that's happened in your past. It was somebody who said something that made you feel a certain way, to where now even just the thought of moving forward reconnects to something in your past and shuts you down even before you choose. Did I just say something right there? Yeah, it's happening. It's happening daily. It's happening daily. You know you should have registered for school by now. You know you should have taken further steps to start your business, but you don't want to because you're afraid that there's going to be a rejection on the other end of that phone line. Or maybe when you go to the bank, they're going to deny you. Or maybe this investor is going to look at you weirdly. And the only reason why you have that fear is because of something that happened way back when. So how do we change? Now that we know what the problem is, how do we change it? How do we change it? Simple. There's a scripture that says, faith cometh by hearing, and hearing, and hearing, and hearing, and hearing. The same way all that information got into your mind in the first place is the exact same way you can start to recondition it, or brainwash, if you will. All right. You can recondition your mind to understand what you want it to understand. The mind works for you. It doesn't control you. Okay. So what does that mean then, Al? That means that now you've got to replace all of that information, or at least reprogram the reticular activating system with new images, with new sounds, with new thoughts, ideas, with new sensations. You've got to reprogram that in order to be able to start thinking in a new manner, in order for your filters to start processing new information that's important to you now versus what you've been thinking about. This is why people tell you in a relationship, don't talk about the person that you don't want to be in a relationship with. Talk about the person that you do want to be in a relationship with. Example. What are you looking for in a man? Well, I don't want a man who's going to be mean to me. I don't want a man who's going to stay out all night. I don't want a man who's going to act, be more into the game than into me. I don't want a man who's going to walk out on his kids. I don't want okay, what do you want? What do you want? Well, I don't want a man who's going no, what do you want? I don't want no man. Time out. Flag on the play. What do you want? Oh, well, I guess I want someone who's going to love me. I want someone who's going to cherish me and honor me. I want someone who's going to make me feel important, like I can move forward and conquer the world. I want somebody who's going to make me feel like the special person that God created me to be. Now, what's happening is just that little piece of information is going to start helping you to reprogram your subconscious mind through the reticular activating system. So now that you start to talk about what you want, it's going to start pulling information to support what you want. Remember when you were little and you were starting to learn how to ride a bike and somebody told you, don't focus on the tree, because if you keep focusing on the tree, you're going to run right into it. Why? Because your mind is trying to get you to what you focus on. Uh-oh. Don't want that to happen in the negative. You want it to happen in the positive. So what do you want to happen? Don't say, I don't want to be broke another day in my life. No. All your mind is going to hear is broke. Another day in my life. So start telling your mind what you do want. And sometimes what you need to do is write it down. Write the vision. Woo, that sounds familiar. Make it plain. Hey, so that he may run that reason. A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. That's what you need to do. Write it down. Get very clear on it. This is what I want. I want, and be specific. If there's ever a time in life where I could tell you to be selfish, this is the time. Be selfish. It's okay to be selfish right now when you're writing down specifically your goals, your dreams, your desires. You need to be specific. You cannot have broad, abstract dreams. If you say, I want to be wealthy, what does that mean? If you want to say, I want to have more money, I could walk up and hand you a penny. You got more money. Is that what you want? Be specific. Write down an amount. Write down a specific time that you want it to happen by. Write down every detail that you can. Paint a picture. And then get some pictures to support it. Find a magazine. copy, cut out some pictures. It doesn't have to be specific. It can be a representation of what you're thinking about. Put it on some 3x5 cards. Look at it daily. Look at it daily. And what you're doing is you're reprogramming your mind to understand and accept now the new goal. And now your mind goes into work to retrieve information on what you now want. Isn't it interesting how when you start to think about getting a new car, you go to the dealership and you look around and you finally find the car that you want. And then now that you find that car, you see a million cars out there that looks just like yours and you never saw them before. And now you're wondering, did somebody play me? How does everybody have the... No, it wasn't that they weren't there. You just weren't focused on it. But now, because you're focused on it, your mind is trying its best to help you by pulling in all of the sensory data it can to help you to support what it is that you are now interested in. That's the same thing that's going to happen. It'll happen in business. It'll happen in love. It'll happen in your getting closer to the Lord, if that's what you want. Whatever it is that you want, your mind is there to help you. So, yeah, we got to get this thing right. Yep, I'm going scripture. Romans 12:1. You know it. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present yourself a living sacrifice. And let me just jump on down to the part that I want to. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Goes right back to what I said in the beginning. What he came to do was to change our thinking, to change our perspective. Now is a good day to get a new change. Now is a great day to change the way you've been thinking and get into some real life for a change. Yeah. So stop putting all of that stuff. Watch. Okay. Calm down, Al. I'm getting a little too excited. Watch what you put in front of your eyes. What are you watching on television? Does it support who you want to be, what you want to have, where you want to go, what your purpose and assignment is? Is it the music that you listen to? Is it helping? Or is it helping to strengthen the negativity that's already been placed in there for years of overload? Are you around people that you don't necessarily need to be around because they have a tendency to just kind of sometimes bring out the worst in you? You tell me. I'm just... Absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes you got to clear your circle. Sometimes you got to start over. And it may not feel comfortable at first, but you have to ask yourself, if I stay in this position, am I going to get to where I really want to be? Am I going to get to fulfill the purpose that I was created to fulfill? Am I eventually going to be able to help my friends who I'm trying to, not move forward for? That don't even sound right, does it? So you've got to start thinking about what's going to be best for you. If you've ever been on an airplane, I don't know if you have, I absolutely have. If you've ever been on an airplane, one of the first instructions that they give you is that if the pressure in the cabin changes or gets too low, there's going to be a mask that's going to drop down, an oxygen mask. What do they tell you to do? Put your mask on first. Why? Because if you try to help that little child that's sitting next to you to get their mask on and you pass out because you ain't got no oxygen, you can't help anybody. You got to help yourself first sometimes. It's okay. It's all right. Make sure that you stay in. If you're really caring about others, if you really want to help others, then put yourself in a position to help others. Get your mind right first. It's not the material resources is going to make you. It's not the financial resources going to make you. It's not even the human resources going to make you. It's going to be this. If you get this on the right track, get rid of some of that negative stuff, reprogram it, dump some of that old stuff. I wish we could just hit a factory reset, button in the back of our head and start over from scratch, but we can't do that. So we've got to reprogram. Same way faith comes by hearing, you need to hear it over and over and over. And you know what voice is best for it to come from? Your own. So yeah, write down what you want now. Be very specific, be detailed. Talk about what you want, not what you don't want. Then repeat it to yourself over and over. Put it on a mirror. Put it on your refrigerator. Put it on the center part of your steering wheel. If you don't have a car, put it in your wallet. Put it on your phone. Put it on your laptop. Put it somewhere where you can see your goals and desires and dreams all the time. Read them over daily, morning, noon, and night. Say them out loud. And then at night, close your eyes and just take a moment and think about it. Imagine it. Imagine it. Just take a few minutes and imagine your new world. I am telling you, it all starts right here. It all starts right here. I'm getting ready to wrap this up. I've had a wonderful time. There was a poem my mother made me learn when I was a little boy. I want to leave that with you today. She made me repeat it over and over and over until I got it. It says this: if you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win, but you think you can't, it's almost certain you won't. If you think you'll lose, you've lost. For out in the world we find success begins with the fellow's will. It's all in the state of mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win the prize. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man, but sooner or later, the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. I have really enjoyed this first hour with you. I am so happy that you joined me, and I'm hoping that you will come back next week. We're going to have a whole lot more to talk about. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some laughs. Hopefully, I'll be able to even answer some of your questions live as we get more into this. But I'm going to tell you, this first time was fun for me. I'm enjoying it. And so I got to say again, thank you to my lovely wife, and thank you to my wonderful father for being here, and for my sister who's at home watching my little baby, the Bean, my sister Kimberly. I love you so much. God's Holy Temple Church family, I love you. Sister Linda, Pastor Prophet Blaine, and everybody involved in Worship Radio International. We are having a wonderful breakout session. And don't forget, next week, tune in. It's going to be same time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tell somebody, invite somebody. Make sure that they know how to get in contact. And they can go to the @ on Facebook, Coaching by Al, and you can find that information. Did I miss anything? Money. Yeah. Well, it's kind of weird for me to talk about this, but if you would like to support this program, if you would like to support what you're watching, then I encourage you to go to Cash App. And the way you can do that is the $ on the Cash App on your phone or on your device, and go to Coaching by Al LLC. Coaching by Al LLC. It's all one word. Just make sure you have the $ in front of it, and then you can send whatever you like to send. Tens, 20s, hundreds, thousands, millions. It's okay. You want me to come pick it up? I'll come pick it up. It's all right. I don't mind. I got enough gas to do it. Okay. But I've really enjoyed this time. And I don't know how close I am to being finished. Do I have time to sing a song? No, I'm not going to sing a song. You know, they say if you're going to preach, don't sing. If you're going to sing, don't preach. I don't know what they said about coaching. I think it's okay to coach and sing at the same time. But next time we have some things to discuss. I want to talk about a very important subject. I hope that you will go and find out more information about what I shared to you today about getting your mind right. But next time we're going to talk about something that we all strive for, something that we all strive for. We all work so hard to get it. We all reach for it, and we may not even know what it is. But when you find out what you're actually working so hard for in life, everybody, things may start to make a lot more sense to you. I'm not going to give it away. You got to tune in next week so you can see it. All right. And then this is also going to be recorded, so you will be able to go back to my Facebook page and look at it again. I encourage you, please, if you're watching, be sure to like Coaching by Al page. Be sure to follow Coaching by Al. And then also be sure to share it. You know, don't feel ashamed. I won't be mad. You can share it. It's okay. I ain't going to get you. I am so goofy. I don't know what's wrong with me. Okay, but that's about all the time I have for today. And how am I doing on time? We got time left? I'm fine? Time. Time. It's over. Love y'all. Pew!